Hello everyone! Today I'm making a steak. A good old-fashioned steak with a nice crust and a perfectly cooked interior. I'm going to achieve this through the reverse sear method, an easy cooking technique which makes the entire process foolproof. Not to say that you're a fool or anything, you're watching my videos. So you're already doing something right. Let's get into it. When choosing a steak, there's a lot of options. You're probably already familiar with the common ones, like sirloin, T-bone, strip, and a bunch displayed here. You'll have good results with any of these. They can be treated fairly similarly, granted we're mindful with our cooking techniques and our temperature control. Something most cuts of meat, but particularly steaks, have in common is their grain, or pattern to how their muscle fibers are organized. Muscles are kinda like this bundle of ropes, though ropes representing the muscle fibers. If we were to cut this way, with the grain of the fibers, we would get these long, tough, stringy pieces. But if we were to cut against the grain, we end up with these tender and easily pulled apart pieces. This is particularly important in something like flank steak, where the grain is very long and defined. In the description below, I'll put a link to a fantastic chart from the Cattlemen's Beef Board and National Cattlemen's Beef Association, which showcases every cut of beef you could imagine, and what the recommended cooking processes are for it. This is a great tool to see what the suggested cooking methods for a particular cut of meat is if you're unsure. When working with steak, it's recommended to let it come up to room temperature before cooking it. About a half hour should be fine. This will help it achieve more even cooking, since its temperature is more normalized. I'm going to season my steaks with just some salt and pepper. That's pretty standard, since I'll be adding some more flavors later in the process. But you can season your steak however you like. Now we're ready to begin our reverse sear. The idea here is that we gently cook our steak at a low temperature in the oven to get the perfect temperature on the inside first. Then we can quickly and intensely sear the outside afterwards to get our desired crust. This takes all the guesswork out of achieving that balance between having a nice crust and a perfectly cooked interior. I'm shooting for medium rare, so that's a final temperature around 130 degrees Fahrenheit or 54 degrees Celsius. Because our steak will continue cooking for about 5 degrees after it's removed from the heat, we're going to want to try for around 115 to 120 Fahrenheit, or 46-47 Celsius, internal temperature out of the oven. This gives us a little wiggle room. We can always cook our steak more, but we cannot uncook our steak. I'm going to cook my steak on this rack in the oven at 250 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 121 Celsius, for about 20 minutes. This is going to change depending on the thickness of your steak, so keep a thermometer ready and check every 10 minutes or so until you hit your mark. While that's going, let's look over the other ingredients we'll be using. This butter, garlic, and thyme will be added to the pan as the steak cooks and basted with it, giving us an added level of flavor and richness. The rest of the ingredients, this beef stock, port wine, shallots, and tomato paste, will be used to make a fantastic pan sauce after we're done cooking the steak. Alright, so my steak just hit the mark I was aiming for. You can see that the steak has changed color a bit, and it's looking a little dry. That's fine, all of our juices are inside, and that dried outside is really going to form a great crust. You can see internally that the steak is at 125 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 51 Celsius. Right on track for medium rare. Now let's get our pan nice and hot and ready for our steak. This pan is at around 500 degrees Fahrenheit, or 260 Celsius. If you don't have a gauge, drip a little water in the pan, and if it evaporates almost immediately, you're good. We want the pan heated to just before the point of smoking. I'm using a cast iron pan, which is perfect for this kind of thing, but any pan will work. It just needs to be very hot, and remember to use a towel or a pot holder when working with a pan at this temperature. The handle will be hot. Now that our pan is nice and hot, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of oil and then our steaks. Really make sure you have good contact with the pan. You really want to hear it sizzle. And then just leave it alone. Let it do its thing for a few minutes. After a minute or two, check the bottom to see how your crust is doing. Flipping it if it looks good, dropping the heat a bit, and then adding your butter, thyme, and garlic. And then start basting the steak with it. The residual heat from the pan will do the rest. The thyme and garlic are going to infuse into the butter, which then when we baste it over the steak will impart its flavor. We'll get this steak off the heat and allow it to rest for at least 5 minutes, another crucial step. This gives the fats and liquids inside the steak a chance to reabsorb back into the meat, so they don't bleed out everywhere when we cut it. While that's resting, let's put these beautiful pan drippings to use in a port wine sauce. We'll start by sauteing shallots until translucent. Then we'll add our tomato paste and let that saute for about a minute or two. Once things are looking a little bit dry, we'll deglaze with our port wine, then add our beef stock. Sherry, brandy, or even whiskey would all work great here. We'll just let this reduce and thicken up a bit, and then we'll strain it before using. Alright, so these steaks have rested for a little over 5 minutes. You can see we got some good mired browning going on here on the crust, and I can just tell that these are going to be juicy just by the feel of them. Let's slice one open and see how we did. I'd say we nailed it here. What I really like about this method is how our desired doneness is consistent throughout the steak. It goes from crust to perfect medium rare without that layer of gray overcooked meat. This is a very similar effect to how sous vide steaks come out. The process is basically the same premise, but it's just done in a different way. And there you have it, steak, using the reverse sear method. I hope you enjoyed this video about steak. I know I enjoyed making it. Oh, and how could I forget my sauce? Perfect. Anyway, if you did enjoy the video, why not like and subscribe? I'd really appreciate it, and it helps me continue making more videos like this. Now I have a steak to eat, so as always, thanks for watching.